Right, hello people, welcome to my predictions for Sebastian Fundora versus Keith Thurman. I believe this is for the WBC welterweight. No, it's not for the WBC welterweight. One of the belts, he did have WBC. Yeah, it's for one of the belts, I think maybe the WBA. But yeah, this is for the welterweight world championship. And yeah, I've said in the past, I think this is an undeserved fight for Keith Thurman. I don't particularly get the motivation behind it from PBC to make it. Thurman's a name, Sebastian Fundora's a name, but they're at tail opposite ends of their career. Maybe you build Sebastian Fundora up off of Keith Thurman's name, but I don't know. This is two guys that really tailor opposite ends of their career. You've got Sebastian Fundora, the young guy who's kind of, surging and looking really good and improving, and you've got Keith Thurman, the guy who's had one fight in 6 years and hasn't looked bad, and he's had, I think, 2 fights in 6 years, but in those 2 fights he hasn't looked bad. He beat Mario Barrios and Brock Jarvis, who shouldn't have been in the ring with him. Yeah, this is, at this point in their career, you've definitely got to give the nod to Sebastian Fundora for sure. A few years ago, if you had this version of Fundora versus a more prime version of Keith Thurman, you'd have to say the power and the explosiveness of Keith Thurman might give him the edge, but at this point in his career, I believe Keith Thurman's had some shoulder issues, so the power is not the same. He's still pretty explosive from that fight we saw a year ago against Brock Jarvis, but I don't believe to the same degree. He probably can't be. He's getting up there in age. Sebastian Fundora himself isn't the most skilled boxer in the world. His defense is pretty poor. He's not the quickest. His foot speed's fairly slow. He's obviously very upright, but he's about 6'7", isn't he? 6'5", something like that. He's the biggest champion in boxing right now, even taller than the heavyweight champion of the world, Alexander Usyk, in terms of height. His skill set is limited, to say the least, but his physical attributes, like his work rate and of course his height and size, give him a really good edge. He started off his career as more of an inside fighter, then got taken out by Brian Mendoza, and since then has actually been looking to work on the outside. And it's not the most sophisticated outside game, but with his height and reach being so long and awkward, of course him being a southpaw on top of that, the basics really do get him past people with flying colours. Like I said, not the most sophisticated fighter in the world, but his physical attributes really, really make up for that. Keith Thurman himself is a very well-schooled boxer who, in his day, had good power, was very explosive, quite quick. But at this point in his career, has been so inactive. He's the poster boy for inactivity in boxing, man. He's been so inactive. And I can't see him getting a win at this level at this point in his career against a guy who's maybe not the best fighter in that division, but is certainly one of the more awkward propositions to beat, if that makes sense. I think Fundora's beatable, but I think he's a very awkward proposition to beat, especially in the circumstances of a Keith Thurman. With that being said, of course, Keith Thurman is going up a division to super welterweight. He's been pretty much a career-long welterweight. His last fight was at super welterweight against Brock Jarvis, but Brock Jarvis isn't a super welterweight, isn't even a welterweight. So he really hasn't experienced what it's like to be in this division against normal-sized super welterweights, let alone Sebastian Fundora, who's huge. So, both men's run of form is vastly different. Like I said, Keith Thurman, those few fights in half a decade. Sebastian Fundora obviously took the loss to Brian Mendoza, actually filled in for Keith Thurman against Tim Tszyu, beat Tim Tszyu in that fight, was struggling early in the early rounds, then Tim Tszyu proceeded to get a cut on kind of top of his head. His head clashed with Sebastian Fundora's elbow, and Fundora kind of took advantage of that and just kind of kept behind a jab, poked and prodded at the cut, and Tim Tszyu wasn't able to close the distance from there. Then he fought Booker next. It looked very good in that fight, very routine kind of title defence. Then he fights Tim Tszyu in a rematch and displays some improvements, like his counter punching, and just looked a lot sharper than he did in the early rounds of the first fight. Made Tim Tszyu quit in that fight, and that was of course his last fight. And there's not really any point in going over Keith Thurman's form. He lost to Manny Pacquiao quite convincingly. He was fairly competitive, but lost it. Then beat Mario Barrios, which is a decent win. And then has beaten Brock Jarvis, which isn't a great win. So yeah, the point is Keith Thurman's form is dramatically worse. Sebastian Fundora is an intimidating fighter to face, so awkward, and I've got Sebastian Fundora winning this, probably by stoppage. Keith Thurman's body has proven itself to not be the most stable of bodies, so I could see Sebastian Fundora breaking him down, beating the old man with his work rate, his tool range, and stopping him at some point in the fight. Should be a good watch, I guess. It's gonna be satisfactory. It's a PBC pay-per-view. It's one of the weakest PBC cards I've seen recently as well, and that's saying something. We did have a co-main event of Richard Torres versus Frank Sanchez, which was a great fight. Unfortunately, that is off the card. But yeah, man, this is a pretty clear-cut fight for me. Pretty clear-cut. But yeah, thank you for watching. Goodbye.